Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from YourBlackWorld.com, and I had wanted to have a conversation about a story that recently came out. Former editor-in-chief of the New York Times Magazine, Edward Klein, is writing a new book called The Amateur, and as part of his process of promoting his book, he is laying out lots of salacious little facts that he's sort of dropping onto the public to increase book sales. The book is an unauthorized autobiography of President Barack Obama, and he's made a lot of interesting claims in the book. The most interesting and most recent claim of the book is one in which he discusses details according to what he's written, according to the facts that he's gathered from people he's interviewed, in which he claims that in 2000 Michelle Obama was going to leave Barack because she felt that he wasn't listening and taking her advice when it came to his political career. The family was struggling financially, and he even said that Barack, according to his friends, could have been suicidal, or that his friends thought he might be suicidal over this incident. So I wanted to talk to Nomalanga Moses, who is she runs a website called SuccessfulBlackWoman.com. She is an advocate for young women, as well as a person who kind of understands how all this family and marriage and all this other stuff works. So first of all, I want to say, Nomalanga, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Boyce. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So you wrote an article about Michelle, and your response to this revelation that Michelle thought about leaving Barack was, so what? So what do you mean by that? What was your response to these allegations, if you want to call them that?
Well, first of all, I do want to acknowledge that at this point they just are that allegations, but assuming that they're true, I want to just point out your word where you said revelation. It's not a revelation. Anybody who's been married, and I said this in the article, anybody who's been married any amount of time knows that at some point you're going to feel like pitting. You're taking two different lives and trying to merge them into one. It's not an easy process. At least that hasn't been my experience, and I've never seen anybody go through 5, 10 years and above and beyond that, and it not be a difficult process.
Interesting. So you're saying that that the fact that Michelle thought about leaving doesn't make her any less of a woman, or it doesn't make their marriage any less admirable than it was before. That perhaps, and I agree with you. I see where you're coming from on this, because it almost seems that people sort of projected a fairy tale onto the Obamas, as if their marriage has never hit a bump in the road. It's always been smooth sailing. And I think that's a little bit dangerous, because a lot of young people who are planning to get married in the future think that it's going to be smooth sailing. And you're saying, as a woman who has been married for several years, and you have 2 children, am I correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, you have 2 kids. So, and you're saying, as a married woman with 2 kids, that's just not the reality based on what you've seen. So, what do you think about this notion that Michelle was, assuming it's true again, and we have to give Edward Klein some degree of credibility, because he was an editor-in-chief at the New York Times, with the magazine, not the newspaper, but the magazine. He also graduated from Columbia Journalism School, and from what I understand, they don't just, spit out shoddy journalists there. So we have to give some of this credibility. Yeah. Now, what do you think about the possibility that Michelle was thinking about leaving Barack, in large part because of the money? I mean, do you think that in any way she could be critiqued for not believing in her husband's dream as much as she should have, or do you think that even that's normal as well?
Let's consider that she's still in the marriage, so we can't say that she didn't believe in him because she's still in the marriage. What I would like to point out, though, is, again, it comes with the territory. There comes a time when it gets so hard, and the urge to leave is overwhelming. But I think at this point, I respect her even more, because if the urge was so great to leave and she still stayed, it says a lot about her. And, in another article that I wrote, I said that one of the things that seemed to trigger divorces are, a problem in the finances, as well as a problem in communication. And I mentioned one other thing that I won't repeat again. But that being said, finances are a valid trigger for divorce or for people leaving. And again, the fact that she stayed to me says a lot about her. Now, if she was willing to call it quits, because he messed up in a really, really bad way, that was her right. It was her right to do that, but she didn't. But I can criticize somebody who did leave, because then that means that what they said is through thick and thin, through good times and bad times, and then when the bad times came, they bailed. So not Michelle, but anybody else who did bail, maybe so.
Well, I think you're right. I think that, however they got here, the fact is that they did get here. And getting here means that they made it through 21 years. They've had 2 kids together, and they don't seem to be anywhere near a divorce now. Anyway, at least we hope not. And I think, as a father of daughters, I feel that it's important to teach my girls, and if they were boys, I teach them this too, that this fantasy of marriage, it's not usually a fantasy, just like the fantasy of success. It doesn't mean you're always successful. Most successful people are successful because they know how to deal with failure. And I think that the same thing is true in marriage, that only the strong survive. So, Nomalanga, I argue that if you want to be the next Michelle Obama and you want to find your own Barack Obama, then you need to be ready to rise to the occasion. And that goes for women and for men, not just one or the other. I think that anybody, even when I think about my own life, and my life is not anywhere near as hectic as Barack's, but, it's maybe a little more hectic than most people, I guess. Part of the reason that I delayed marriage for a very long time is because, I felt that I said, you know what, I don't even know if another person is ready for this life that I have, the ups and the downs, and, going from, rags to riches and feast to famine sometimes, or dealing with volatility and controversy and everything else, and just being in the spotlight. And my spotlight isn't nearly as big as Barack's. And I think that the truth is that it takes a certain kind of person that can really handle that, and handle it in a way where you don't just take the good that comes with it. You're also ready to stand by your partner during the bad. So, Noma, as a person who advocates and it speaks to young women, just so people know, I always love to brag that you're actually now the reigning Mrs. Botswana, and that's MRS for all the guys that are thinking about sending you flirtatious emails. What advice would you have, Nomalanga, for young people that are planning to get married one day and maybe trying to look for their own version of Barack or Michelle Obama?
Oh, well, it's interesting that you would say that, Boyce, because just this morning I posted to my Facebook audience. I was like, you can't expect to attract a man of President Obama's caliber if you're not yourself a woman of Michelle Obama's caliber. So how do you become a woman of substance like Michelle? Well, you invest in your personal development. I genuinely believe in personal development. I think that my own personal development journey makes me a better mother. It makes me a better wife. It makes me a better instructor, motivator. I'm trying to do. I think it starts with me working on me first. And that's the only advice I can give. The caliber of the people that you see in your circle is usually based on who you are as a person. So the only thing you can control is who you are. So it's the same thing with marriage. You want a better marriage, become a better woman. And I would even dare to say the same thing applies to men. You want a better wife, you have to become a better man. You really cannot expect to attract to yourself what you're not.
All right. Well, that's the advice from Miss Nomalanga Mushali Moses. And her site, again, is successfulblackwoman.com. She is a frequent contributor to Your Black World, and someone that I have a lot of respect for. So her advice is good for everybody, including myself. So thank you very much, Noma. I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Boyce. The pleasure is always.
Absolutely, and thank you all for checking us out at yourblackworld.com. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.